Just a very short context. My presentation and Lisa's presentations, and some of them as well, are mainly based on the results from the European project Inception from the Horizon 2020. If it's not making sense now, it will make sense a little bit later when Federica will explain exactly what the purpose is. I'm representing Demo Consultants, a company based in the Netherlands, and we are one of the partners in the Inception project. So we are a small SME, and our main expertise is the development of software for performing condition assessment, so condition surveys on buildings, not specifically on historical buildings. So our involvement in the Inception project was mainly to look more critically on our software and see how could we apply the standard that we are using in the Netherlands on condition assessment, on the technical assessment of the buildings. How can we apply the same, with adjustments of course, the same standard on historical buildings? And my presentation is mainly on how we did that and what kind of results we have now within Inception project, with the emphasis that it's a prototype. So BIM-based cultural heritage asset management tool, we are performing now inspection on the BIM model, and BIM stands for Building Information Modeling, because someone has asked me that, which, if I can put it very shortly, is a 3D model with a lot of information, as we have heard since this morning. I will walk you through how did we start it, what were the problems, what were the needs from our stakeholders, because we are in close contact with some stakeholders in the Netherlands, historical, so really cultural heritage organizations, non-profit organizations that own monuments, historical buildings, and do not know how to deal, do very well know how to deal with condition survey of their monuments, but they do not have a systematic approach, and basically a lot of inspections occur unplanned, and they are most of the times very pricey. I'll walk you through the solutions or the approach that we have implemented within Inception, and eventually I will show you how did we run the pilot on one of the demonstration cases within the Inception project, which is one of, in the Netherlands, one small church. As we have heard since the beginning of this morning sessions, there is, within the cultural heritage, there is a lack of standards on all levels, not only on condition survey, but specifically on our field. In our field, there is a lack on understanding how can we perform condition surveys on a European level. There is no standard applicable for all European countries. And because in the Netherlands and in the northern countries, Denmark and Sweden, the condition survey has been more or less standardized and has been more or less successfully implemented. We have tried to do this within Inception by using the Dutch standard, which was in 2002 standardized. And I'm gladly and I'm proudly would like to say that right now at this moment there are some commissions specifically on this condition technical assessment in the Netherlands that are trying to transfer this standardized Dutch survey to Europe level. So who knows, maybe we'll perform condition assessment on European level within a few years. So like I mentioned, because there are various approaches. Each national policy uses their own way of performing condition surveys. The maintenance planning, that preventive maintenance planning that should be the result of this condition survey is more, most of the times unplanned, and it's costing quite a lot. So within Inception, we have thought that there is a need of a tool we have this tool, but there is a need of a tool specifically to equip the stakeholders and the historical monuments owners and managers with a tool that would incorporate all the information that they have on their monument. And there is, like we heard in the previous presentation, there is a lot of data to deal with. And like in the picture with the iceberg, what you have seen indeed on the top of the water is just the peak of the iceberg, and that's public information, but what it's underneath is the data that all the owners and the managers are trying to deal with, to manage. They have it, but most of the times they don't have a central place to store all the data. And within Inception, and that's why Inception is actually such a great result in Inception, is the Inception platform, which would play the role of this central place where all the historical, specifically for professionals and conservation professionals, would store their data, would archive their data, and like Lisa said previously, will have register the storytelling, also from a maintenance point of view. So there the conservation professionals would be able to visualize on a BIM model previous inspections and previous interventions, measures. So if we understand what has been done in the past, then we can know how to perform further in the future in order to take the wise decisions. And I think I remember that Rocco said also earlier today that improper decisions basically diminish the historical characteristics, the historical value of a monument. So this Inception platform would be the central place that would streamline eventually the way the conservation and the management process is done on monumental buildings. So, like I mentioned, within Inception, we have used our own existing commercial tool that we are using on a daily basis for condition assessment. Just to a little bit within brackets, it's a visual condition assessment. So it's not like Tonia has explained earlier this morning, a very structural condition, but it's a preventive, it's an initial state, technical initial state of a building in order to take preventive measures for, prevent further degradation. And it will help us by giving us insight in the physical condition, in the technical status. It will give us insight and understand how to manage the maintenance strategy further. It encompasses, so our tool has an integrated standard, Dutch standard in it, and with adjustments related to the monumental characteristics, we have now been able to implement it for monuments by having integrated the BIM modeling, the IFC model. And this is quite important because previously to Inception, we have done that manually. So the first step in the tool, and I think it's the next step, by capturing the cultural heritage real estate stock, meaning that the first step would be to inventory our building, and that is basically the decomposition of a building in building components. And this was a process that was done manually. So the inspectors, together with the owners, were investigating what is my building, what do I have. Without a survey, it was very hard to measure, to have the accuracy that we were talking about earlier today. And right now, by having this BIM model, as a result of a survey, of course, of a 3D scanning survey, we are now able to automatically import this measurements, this accuracy, right away in the tool, which saves a lot of time and saves a lot of money, of course. So the steps after inventorying, so what is my building, what do I want to do with it, define the maintenance levels and constraints, especially with monuments. So the owner would decide what is my strategy, what do I want to do with this monument, what can I do with this monument respective to the monumental restricts. and whether there is a transformation strategy involved as well. Next step, performing an inspection and defining measures, so interventions that should be taken, and as a result, generating a maintenance or a conservation plan on a multi-year. So, like I said, the first step, inventorying. This was traditionally a manual process. Right now, it's coming automatically. This is a picture from how the Inception platform actually works with our tool. So our tool is connected to the platform, and it's retrieving actually this model for the inspection step. When the inspector would go on site and would perform inspection, it's actually retrieving the model directly from the platform. So it's easy. The owner does not need to store it locally on their computer. They don't need a BIM server. They don't need a huge server room where they document all the data. They just need to be, well, affiliated to the Inception platform and put their models in there in order for the inspectors to be able to retrieve the model when they need to do the inspection of the monuments. Inspection is done by using a mobile app with the iPad, and like I said, this is done by retrieving the model from the platform. The inspection results, taking also the pictures, which is connected also to a database in our tool, is connected to a database of cultural heritage safeguarding agencies that are actually having pictures of the defects. So it's comparing it also with the defects, possible defects, in order to appoint and assess also the criticality of the defects registered. These results, of course, are going back directly to the BIM model and, of course, going back to the platform. The demonstration case within Inception that is located in the Netherlands, in the northern part of the Netherlands, is a Romanesque church from the 13th century, which is more than 50 years obsolete. So it's empty. There is no use for it. It's only used for ceremonial events like weddings or other distinctions, and there is right now coming from the local community, there is a transformation plan set up. So not the owner owns more than 80 similar churches in the neighborhood, but they do not have the financial resources to, first of all, maintain them, let alone transform it. So a local community has set up a transformation plan. And based on a crowdsourcing funding, they are trying now to put up the financial resources together in order to transform the place. And 2 years ago, the plan has been accepted by the Cultural Heritage Agency in the Netherlands. So they are now, together with our help, because within Inception we have scanned it, we are now transferring the inspection results and maintenance costs, transformation cost, which is also an estimation of what does it need to happen and how much would it cost to happen, with the emphasis on estimation, because when it's about transformation is of course another story. I will now go through the steps that we have done in order to implement and validate the tool, but it's more or less what has been explained. We have followed more the 3D data acquisition protocols that we have developed within Inception, and with the modeling of the BIM model, we are performing now the inspection. I think I went through these steps. As I mentioned, all the results from the inspection, they are going in an BIM as a so-called inspected BIM that will go back to the platform and will help the owner, together with their professionals, to have an understanding of the past interventions and plan the maintenance for the strategy for the future. These are just some impressions of how the inspection is done on site, and the application is synchronizing all the results right away to the client application, so the owner can live monitor also the inspection process, how it's done. And this is some impressions of the design, so together with an architect, these are more or less the the ideas of how this church should be transformed to, and it would be a cultural centrum together with a playground for children and a library on a first level. That will be happening hopefully in 2-3 years. So depending on how fast the crowdsourcing funding is going on. I think I'm quite fast and on time, hopefully. But this is one of the results coming from the Inception project. So if you have any questions, I'll be there